Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Thank you once again for joining me. And how good was rugby league on the weekend? Week one of finals football down. Four cracker games that were played on the weekend. And mate, there was so many points scored in each of those games. It was so good to watch and to see. Not a lot of defense, which is obviously very exciting. But look, we'll get straight into it. Thank you again for joining me once again this week. You know who it is. It's your man Stat. And let's kick off with the first game of the finals. The Panthers 29 defeating the Roosters 28. Now, it was a cracker start from the Sydney Roosters. Within 15 minutes, they were up 10-0. Looking at how things were going in the start, I thought, well, this is the game that Roosters really need to aim up. And they got off to a quick start. And something that I definitely predicted, getting them off a quick start and trying to hold off that intensity. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Now, the Penrith Panthers finally clicked into gear. A couple calls went their way, and off they went. Now, Nathan Cleary had an absolute blinder of the first half, scoring a hat-trick. Now, the first try, I think it was a knock-on. Can't see how the refs missed that. Now, there was a knock-on in the play, which then it was constituted a double knock-on. So Penrith knocked it on first, the Roosters knocked it on. Ref didn't say it that way. The bunker obviously viewed it differently and gave Cleary that try. And it kind of derailed the Roosters a little bit. But I think the play for me for the first half that was really beautiful to watch was when Cleary had his hat trick. Now, obviously in that play, what happened was Cleary got the ball as first receiver, cut it out a couple of plays to Luai, who was second receiver. Kind of started running through the left-hand side, popped in a little X ball to Steve Crichton, which was an open gap. So he attracted the defense, got the center attached to him, and then popped that X ball through. As Crichton went through, made that break, and then cut out to the right to Cleary for him to go score under the posts for his third try. That was wonderful to watch. Penrith were just in sync. I think they took every opportunity that came their way. They didn't try to waste too many opportunities. Now, the Roosters obviously would be very disappointed not being able to hold on the Panthers for that, at least the first 40. As I said, the first 15 minutes, they clicked into gear. They obviously flew away with the game early on. It started to look like a one-sided affair. A couple calls obviously didn't go their way, the Roosters, but they did enough in the second half to try and come back. I thought they clicked into gear second half. Roosters really snapped out of that little slump that they had. And they obviously started to find that bit of rhythm. Unfortunately, it was too little too late with that Cleary field goal with 3 minutes to go, obviously ruining that for the Sydney Roosters. But look, Roosters were in it to the death. I mean, they had the opportunity from 45 out, which was deflected off the player when Cleary went to go for the field goal, which is unfortunate to see for the Roosters. But look, Penrith were too good on Friday night. Now, obviously, what will happen is that Panthers will get the week off. And with Roosters finishing fourth, they'll have another opportunity this week in a do-or-die clash against the Raiders, which we'll get to a bit later. The standouts for me, I think, were just from the Panthers. All up, Isaiah Yeo was exceptional. 18 runs, 168 metres, 82 post-contact metres, a tackle break, and 45 tackles. Apasai Coruscant was very busy, 61 tackles he finished with on Friday night. A very busy defensive effort from him. And Nathan, look, as I said, Nathan Cleary was just dominant the whole night. Of the 29 points himself, he scored 21, with obviously him converting those 3 tries and the field goal. So, look, it's a complete performance from the Panthers. Obviously, there was a couple areas that they might want to get right, obviously before that preliminary final coming up next week. But, look, until then, they got to hold off. They get the week off. Now, they've gone 16 straight, these Penrith Panthers. Now, I don't know whether the week off will help them, or I don't know if the week off will actually derail their form, but I can't see it going too pear-shaped for the Panthers. I think with that little rest, it kind of helps them kind of get to relax a little bit and then regather just exactly what they were, how they were playing beforehand. So, look, it'll benefit them. The Roosters obviously will have another opportunity this week to obviously try and get back into the grand final and go for that three-peat, which part of me still thinks they can do it. But look, as I said, it was Penrith night on Friday night. Good to see that be able to get the fans out there at Penrith Stadium to cheer on the Penny Panthers, seeing as they've had a brilliant year this year as well. So it's been wonderful to watch. But yeah, Penrith 29 to the Roosters 28. Now the Raiders 32 defeating the Sharks 20 in a 5th place versus 8th place clash. Now it was a slow start from the Raiders. They started off a little bit slow. From the 18th minute onwards, the Sharks rolled on really well. From the 18th to the 35th minute, it was a completely different kind on the Sharks side. They were just on fire. Really took control of that first half, and they really looked unstoppable. That was the only way I could really put it. Now, the one thing that kind of derailed it for the Sharks, unfortunately, with that momentum shift was when Wade Graham going down the left-hand side, the short side, trying to pop in a little 3-on-2 play for the Raiders against the Raiders, but unfortunately popped the ball to George Williams, who scored a 60 or 70 meter intercept try. And obviously copying that before halftime wouldn't have been ideal, but then it was just game over from there. Canberra really clicked into another gear. Jack Wyden scoring 2 more tries again, and another phenomenal performance from him. There's just a little incident that in that game that I wanted to kind of talk about. Now, the Jack Wyden try. Now, Jack Wyden, the Sharks had been penalised for hand in the ruck, and Wade Graham went to go and challenge the call. Ben Cummins made it very clear that that wasn't a call that they could challenge, and Jack Wyden took the quick tap, and he scored and made the Sharks defence look really silly. Now, look, my take on that, there was a lot of people blowing up about it. I do think it was a try. I think, look, for someone like Wade Graham, I believe he should know that he can't call a captain's challenge on a infringement ruck penalty, especially in that moment. Definitely not the right time to do it. And look, the Raiders took advantage of that situation, obviously coming straight out of the second half, and then they just ran with it. They dominated the rest of the game, and they limited Sharks to very, very little opportunities. Now, the Sharks obviously having a few men missing, it was just too hard for them to stop the Raiders. And apart from that consolation try at the end to Sione Katoa, that was all she wrote for the Cronulla Sharks this year. Now, I thought Joseph Tapine and Josh Papali were the standouts for me. For Tapine, 12 runs, 136 metres, a try, line break assist, 9 tackle breaks, 2 offloads and 28 tackles, in a very complete performance from Joe Tapine. And Josh Papali, 14 runs, 137 metres, 1 line break assist, 2 tackle breaks, 2 offloads and 28 tackles, in a very solid performance from him. Another 60 minutes he punched out this week, looking like that the AC joint issue in his shoulder is starting to heal up a lot better. But look, with that being said, with Raiders finishing 5th and the Sharks finishing 8th, the Sharks are now out of the finals race and are done for the 2020 season, while the Raiders will move into the next phase of the do-or-dies and will verse the Roosters, which, as I said, we'll get to a bit later. Now, the Melbourne Storm 34 defeating the Parramatta Eagles 24 at Suncorp Stadium on Saturday night in the second Saturday night clash. Now, I won't lie, I was really, really taken aback by that Parramatta performance for the first half an hour. I thought the first half an hour, they started to play the type of football that they were playing in the beginning of the season. And I genuinely thought they could not find that. I genuinely thought they couldn't go back and start performing the way they performed in the beginning of the season, but I was proven wrong. Trying the first minute to Nathan Brown, some beautiful opportunities where they broke through the Melbourne line and created a lot of space. And to get it to 12-0 in about 20 minutes, I thought it was huge. I also thought that they, as I said, they can only hold on for half an hour. And look, it's disappointing. Now, as I said, the Melbourne Storm, they took limited opportunities that they had. Any little 6 again call that went their way, any penalty they got, they took advantage of it. And with a tie like the Melbourne Storm, that's not something that you can do. And it just showed that Parramatta couldn't really keep it together for the 80 minutes. Parra couldn't really keep it together. They came out of the blocks firing within the first half hour, and then he kind of died after that. Melbourne just took control. Cameron Munster, brilliant. Ryan Pappenhausen, again, clicking to another level, just doing what he does best, and limiting Parramatta to as best they could. Now, it didn't help the Eagles, obviously losing Mike Acevo to that MCL injury, which unfortunately has ruled him out for the year, and also having Blake Ferguson injured as well. Now, defence is still an issue for Parramatta. Wonga Blake is a massive defensive liability, and he hasn't been getting it right for so long now. And I think that I would have thought a few weeks ago that Wonga Blake would have had to cop a rest, but unfortunately that wasn't the case, with George Jennings being on the loan to the Warriors and not having much other depth in the over in the wings. But they didn't play that well in defence, Parramatta. Usually you could tell towards the end. In the beginning, as I said, the first half hour they were great, but after that it kind of just weakened. And Wonga Blake got found out one too many times, and it's going to be more trouble when he plays this week and finds himself on the wing. So, but look, for the Storm, I thought Christian Welch was exceptional. 20 runs, 191 metres, 64 post-contact metres, a tackle break, 3 offloads and 28 tackles. And I thought off the bench, Brandon Smith, another phenomenal performance from him off the bench. 14 runs, 152 metres, 5 tackle breaks and 22 tackles. It was a very decent performance from Brandon Smith coming off the bench, really making his impact. I loved when he got under the skin of Reid Marnie and obviously ended up getting benched with a few minutes to go. Obviously good to watch, but look, Storm were too good. They will earn the week off, and Eels will get the second chance coming up against the club I'm about to talk about now, the Rabbitohs, defeating the Newcastle Knights 44 points to 20. Now, I think you're starting to find what's been common here. You'll find that the Roosters, the Sharks, the Eels, and the Knights, those four clubs that didn't win the game all had strong starts, all came out of the blocks firing. And it was the same again with the Newcastle Knights. They came out of the blocks, looked really dominant. They obviously had Rabbitohs on the back end. They had them on the back foot. Rabbitohs, they were kicking the ball out on the floor, just really basic errors they were making, which were allowing the Knights to gather that lead, and they were up 14-0. And then too many errors and penalties. Again, the inconsistency that was performed throughout the whole season really came back and bit the Knights at the end. You could see exactly how they were playing with too many penalties given away and way too many errors. And when you think about it, you're looking at a side like the South Sydney Rabbitohs. They've got talent all over the park. Obviously, you saw last week, they obviously got to 60 points to 8 over the Roosters, who are one of the best attacking teams in the competition. When you find that with the Rabbitohs, they can score points, and they've scored 104 points in the last 2 weeks. They just clicked it up another gear. I thought Alex Johnston scoring another double was phenomenal. I thought Damien Cook had his best game of the year, really troubling the Newcastle Knights, especially that try he scored at the end, which was wonderful to watch. However, again, the Knights, look, a very inconsistent season from them, and it was good to see a player like Callum Ponga trying to play through the pain, obviously having a shoulder injury, carrying that through the last few weeks of the round. But look, they couldn't stop the Rabbitohs, who just got a roll on, and I've got to give props to their props. Thomas Burgess, 16 runs, 167 metres, 73 post-contact metres, and 24 tackles. Very busy afternoon from him. And Tavita Totola, I thought was one of the best on park. 13 runs, 133 metres, 2 tries, 2 line breaks, 5 tackle breaks, and 20 tackles. And I've always said it, if you get your forwards setting that platform, allows your backs to have an absolute field day, and that's exactly what the Rabbitohs did. And it was, again, another good performance from them. They'll take on the Parramatta Eels this week, which we'll get to at the end, and the Newcastle Knights finishing 7th, obviously not having a second opportunity, and they have bowed out of the finals race and done for season 2020. And look, for the Knights, the only shining highlight for them was Chris Randall making 56 tackles in a busy role from him at hooker. So, and another one of their props who has been solid all year, David Clemmer, 14 runs, 129 metres, 70 post-contact, and 36 tackles. And a big performance from David Clemmer himself. Excuse me. Okay, now, let's get to news around the NRL world. And a bit happened over the course of the week. Now, the NRL Grand Final has moved to ANZ Stadium as opposed to it being at the SCG, and will now sit 40,000 people, with the New South Wales government confirming that. The Seagulls have confirmed the departures of the following players: Joel Thompson to Super League, Anna Fanua-Blake to the Warriors, Corey Waddell to the Bulldogs, Danny Levi, Brendan Elliott, Tony Williams, and Luke Metcalf, all unsigned and without clubs for next season. The Cowboys have re-signed their backup hooker Ruben Cotter on a 2-year contract extension, seeing him the Cowboys to the end of 2022. Kevin Walters was officially named the coach of the Brisbane Broncos for the next 2 years, and with that, has to relinquish the job as the Maroons coach. Now, that obviously saw Wayne Bennett being appointed of the coach of the Maroons. We'll see him take out the appointment for season 2020. Now, Tom Trbojevic has had to withdraw from Origin due to the shoulder injury, and obviously not playing enough games this year. He felt that it was best that he would rest up and be ready for a big preseason with the Sea Eagles, so he will not be playing Origin. Now, the Laundry Group, which is the major sponsor for the Bulldogs, Laundry Hotels, has threatened to pull out of its $2 million deal with the club over off-field board issues. A lot of drama is happening at the club at the moment, with Lynn Anderson running a pretty crap ship at the moment. And I mentioned this many weeks ago of her having to step down. That was meant to happen last week. That didn't end up happening, unfortunately. And it's causing a lot of dramas with Laundry Group and the club. And Laundry are looking to pull out of being the club's major sponsor, which is very sad to see. and definitely something disappointing that would be for the Bulldogs would make everything worse. Now, Cowboys have confirmed that Gavin Cooper, John Asiata, Tom Opicic, and Dan Russell will not longer be part of the club. Gavin Cooper obviously retiring. John Asiata finding another NRL club, which is yet to hear what's happening. I really would love to have him at the Bulldogs. But then again, we're yet to hear what's going on there. Tom Opicic has signed the deal with the Parramatta Eels. Yet to be confirmed. A bit of inside knowledge for all you guys out there. Should be confirmed. Should be for season 2021 and potentially 2022. And then Russell, obviously, that is not yet without a club for next year. Now, Zach Lomax and Daniel Saifidi were added to the Blue squad for the upcoming State of Origin series. Obviously, what that means with those two players being added. David Clemmer, Wade Gray, Mitchell Pearce have missed out of Origin this year. Very controversial with David Clemmer. I thought he's had a very solid year. But he seems has been on the outer in the last one or two State of Origin series. So he will not be partaking in camp this year. There's still a chance he could be added. However, at the moment, it's not looking likely. And Wade Graham, I thought was a bit of a tough one as well. I thought he was okay this year. He did all right to get back from those hamstring injuries and put on a decent end of the run for the Sharks, but wasn't good enough, unfortunately, and he will be missing out of Origin as well. Now, young Tonu Mapea, the Gold Coast Titans centre, has advised the club that he will not be re-signing for 2021. I mentioned that last week. While there were a few clubs chasing him in the NRL, he is now heading back to Melbourne, and he has signed a deal with the rugby union club Melbourne Rebels. Now, back onto Origin talk, Callum Ponga is now potentially out of State of Origin. We'll have a meeting to confirm what's going on, but he does require a shoulder reconstruction, which will sit him out for 36 months. And with the season being pushed as late as it is already, he could start. He could miss out on the start of the beginning of the season. And the big news to come out as well: Josh Maguire is looking to be dropped by Wayne Bennett. They're looking to recall AJ Brimson, Moeaki Fotueka, Tino Fa'asu Malawi, Philip Sammy, and Lindsay Collins looking to join the Origin arena. Looks like a very experienced campaigner like Josh Maguire didn't make the cut. Now, CS Oliola has re-signed with the Raiders to the end of the 2021 season. A machine CS Oliola is, obviously coming back from a very serious facial fracture. It's good to see him pick up another deal with the Raiders and to continue driving the change in that club and making them a powerhouse club. And Joseph Suwali has been in talks for a few months with the Rabbitohs about what's going on. His family have put in, and management have put in ridiculous requests that he will re-sign for 4 years, but can leave at any year should he want to, or he should want to go and compete in the Olympics. Becoming an absolute circus at the moment. And with the money that they were throwing at him, it's looking less and less likely that he will stay at the Rabbitohs. But funny enough, the Roosters have decided to come into play, and obviously now in negotiations with Joseph Suwali, see what he can do. But Suwali is contracted to the Rabbitohs to the end of next year, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of deal that the Roosters will be looking to pull out of their hats for that one. And if Rabbitohs do miss out on Joseph Suwali, they are chasing Josh Adokar for next season. Now, with that being said, the Storm are obviously looking at compensation, so they could get a player like James Roberts. And even if not James Roberts, they could get someone like Jackson Paulo, a young kid who's come through and debuted this year. Now, the one thing I wanted to talk about to recap the last bit of news around the NRL world was the big story that came out in the Australian in regards to South Sydney Rabbitohs and obviously the former captain Sam Burgess. Now, without getting too much into it, there was a lot of reported drug use at the club where Sam Burgess was playing at the time. There was a massive report that came out that detailed that he had been taking different types of recreational drugs, and he was obviously not doing everything appropriate and professionally in terms of being an NRL athlete. Now, there's a doctor that's in question at the club, Dr. Brown, I believe his name is, who tried to cover up the drug use. Now, the Souths have come out and have said that they've strongly denied all these claims and have denied any sort of information in regards to all of that. But I wanted to talk about this just for a few moments because now Sam Burgess, now obviously on the field he was an absolute machine. Off the field he's got roles with the Rabbitohs and Fox Sports, which has been stood down from both roles for the time being pending the conclusion of the investigation. But this is my problem with all of this. This is something that it doesn't sit right with me that the media always love to do. Now, I want to start by saying I do not condone any of these actions. I do not condone anything that Sam Burgess has done. I do not condone all the things that are being reported about him, whether it be the drug taking, the abuse of his wife, and anything of those. I'm not sitting here condoning any of that whatsoever. The problem I have with all of this is that the media will take a story like this and will absolutely beat him down. And over the last 6 or 7 days, a new report every day has detailed different things regarding Sam Burgess. Now, what the media love to do is they absolutely love to kick a man when he's down. They've shown that in the past with many players, and all those in those different circumstances, the players have turned out to be innocent, and then they'll go back into hailing that player. And I'm just like, mate, that's not good enough. The media are now absolutely spitting on Sam Burgess. They are putting his name in the ground, and it's sad to see who someone who could be going. And obviously, at the moment, they talk about how mental health is such a big thing in the game of rugby league, and we have to look out for everyone's well-being and depression, and it can lead to things like that. But the media talk about these things and push these agendas. However, they're absolutely hypocritical. They're kicking a man while he's down. Sam Burgess needs all the support he can get right now. Yes, I'm not condoning any of his actions, but at the end of the day, he's a human like all of us. He will make mistakes. The one thing that's disappointing is that the media continue to kick him while he's down, and they continue to spit on his name and continue to rub his name into the ground. All for what? All these things happened many years ago. A lot of these things that happened were sort of resolved. Now that they've been brought up again, now he's back under investigation. And while, again, I don't condone anything that he's done, I just don't see the need to kick him while he's down and to continuously report many things and release text messages and conversations and manuscripts. And I just think it's all garbage. I think that these people that are obviously investigating it with the police and the special task forces need to do it and keep it private. Obviously, you can't really stop the media and anything they're doing, but I just think that it's a little tough and a little hard to see the media kicking someone like Sam Burgess down. Because look, what's going to happen is if there is any chance that he does get cleared from all of this and everything, and it was just a report, he will resume his time at South Sydney. He will resume his role within Fox Sports. The same people that are absolutely tearing him down and beating him down. I mean, it's not a good look. It's not. It wouldn't be. I would be really uncomfortable if I had to kind of go back into work and everyone was trashing me, regardless of what I had done. I just think it's really poor. And we talk about the seriousness of mental health. And we talk about depression and suicide and how constant it is, but these media are absolutely hypocritical and are tearing the one guy that's down when he probably needs a lot of support. Now, that's my take on it. I don't really want to keep repeating myself and harping on it, but I just think the treatment of a player like Sam Burgess is very, very demeaning, and it's very sad to see. And without condoning any of his actions, it's still very hard to see someone getting kicked while he's down. So look, Sam, mate, you're in our thoughts and our prayers, and I hope that everything does get resolved, and you'll be able to come back from this and be able to obviously move on and put this all behind you and move on and be better for it. Now, let's get into week 2 of the finals. Now, we're limited to 2 games this week. Now, as you guys have recapped it for you guys as well, the Penrith Panthers and the Melbourne Storm having won and finishing in the top 4, they get the week off, and we'll go straight to the game before the grand final. Now, the Roosters will be taking on the Canberra Raiders. And for the Roosters, they get a double boost. Now, they get Jake Friend, who returns from a head knock, and Sonny Bill Williams will come back from that neck injury. Freddie Lussick was not named in the squad at all, and Nat Butcher has been moved over to the reserves, with Mitch Orbison taking his spot on the bench. Now, for the Canberra Raiders, there will be 1-17 for this week. I want to back the Roosters. I really do. I think they've just hit a bit of a slump, and I really think this is the week they can turn it around. But seeing the way Canberra have really clicked into gear the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's going to be a very, very tough match. And I'm going to pull a shock here and go the Canberra Raiders. I think they'll do enough. They've obviously beaten the Roosters at the SCG earlier this year. I think they can do it again. And I'm convinced that they could be the team to knock the Roosters out. The Roosters only made it harder for themselves. Now they'd have to beat the Raiders, they'd have to beat the Storm to get to the grand final, and then versus the winner of Penrith and the winner of Eels Rabbitohs. So look, I'm going to go Raiders. I won't rule the Roosters out. But I think the Raiders can do it and can make a shock and get the Roosters kicked out of the comp by beating them this weekend. And for the second and final game this week, it will be the Eagles taking on the Rabbitohs. For the Eagles, Blake Ferguson was named on the wing after coming off with that knee injury. George Jennings will be on the other wing, taking the spot of Mike Acevo. And Ray Stone will be taking the spot of Marata Niukore, who was suspended for that crusher tackle. Now, if Blake Ferguson fails to recover, Brad Takairangi and Hayes Dunster could potentially be called up if Ferguson does get ruled out. And for the Rabbitohs, he has gone. Wayne Bennett has kept it 1-17, and Jaden Sewer and Liam Knight swapped between starting and bench, and that could be the same again this week. Looking at the last few weeks from both sides, I can't see the Rabbitohs losing this one. I think the Rabbitohs will take this one and will win it comfortably. And I think it'll be the end of the Parramatta Eels for this year. Now, with these games, guys, just so you're aware, it is sudden death. The loser will be done for the 2020 season, and the winners will go forward and verse Storm and Penrith next week. Now, guys, thank you so much for joining me on another edition of League Chat with the Stat. Again, as you know, we are on all podcasting streams: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Alexa, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. We're on YouTube as well, so continue to like, comment, share, subscribe, and we're on Facebook. If you guys can continually share that page around and show the love, obviously we really appreciate it. With all of us being over there, obviously you can continue to hear my stuff through those different podcasting streams. Now, as I said, I'm going to give you guys another few weeks to send through your State of Origin teams. We've obviously received about 30-odd teams so far, so let's continue to bring them in, send them through, and we'll be able to get those discussed as we start to conclude the NRL season and get into the State of Origin talk. Guys, again, thank you for joining me this week. You have yourselves a lovely week. Enjoy the footy this week. As I said, go the Raiders and go the Rabbitohs, and we'll obviously be here to give you the wrap of week 2 of the finals next week. Thank you, guys. Enjoy. Take it easy. We'll see you next week.